If I tell you, you'll never look at me the same again." Those were the last words I whispered to Lisa the night before, and the silence that followed her silence was louder than anything I'd heard in years. Because she knew, and I knew. Some secrets can't be shared without consequence. But let me start at the beginning. You'd expect a story like mine to begin with passion, with something dramatic, a kiss in the dark, a mistake at a party, a hotel room key that shouldn't exist. But no, that's not how it began for me. It began with something so ordinary, so harmless, that no one would ever suspect. It began with a coffee break. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The coffee machine was a ritual in our office. Everyone stopped there, at least once in the morning and again in the afternoon. The hum of grinding beans, the hiss of steam, it was the heartbeat of the floor. If you lingered there long enough, you'd overhear snippets of lives, complaints about deadlines, talk of kids, gossip whispered low enough to pretend it wasn't gossip at all. That morning, I was tired. My husband had tossed and turned all night, muttering fragments of dreams I couldn't piece together. I got up before him, dressed carefully, put on my usual professional smile, and left the house like everything was normal. By the time I stood in front of the coffee machine, I was running on fumes. I pressed the button, watched the dark stream pour into the flimsy paper cup, and let my shoulders sag for just a moment. That's when I felt it, a presence beside me, closer than it needed to be. Miles. He didn't say anything at first, just pressed the button for his own cup, the smell of roasted beans thickening in the air. His sleeve brushed mine, not enough to call attention, just enough to wake my skin. "Morning," he said finally, voice casual but soft, low, as if it was meant only for me. "Morning," I managed. And then it happened. The sugar packet. We both reached at the same time. His fingers touched the edge of the same small square of paper my hand hovered over. It was nothing ridiculous, really. 2 adults and a packet of sugar, but the silence of that second, it was deafening. I pulled back first, hiding my hand as if it had been burned. "You take it," I whispered. "Ladies first," he countered, smiling slightly. I smiled back. I shouldn't have, but I did. And in that moment, a door opened. The rest of the day passed in fragments. I stapled reports in the wrong order, missed a meeting I'd scheduled myself. People asked if I was okay, and I nodded, smiling, pretending it was nothing. But every time I blinked, I saw his smile again. Every time I reached for a pen, I felt the echo of his fingers brushing mine. The next morning, I told myself it had been nothing, just coffee, just coincidence. But when I walked toward the machine, there he was. Again. "Rough morning?" he asked, eyeing the dark circles beneath my eyes. "Something like that," I said, trying to sound light. He stirred his coffee slowly, deliberately. "You should take breaks more often. This place, it can eat you alive." "Spoken like someone who knows," I teased. His eyes held mine for a second too long. "Maybe I do." That was the second time. By the third, it was no longer coincidence. I caught myself adjusting my schedule, slipping out a few minutes later, or earlier just to see if fate would put us there again. And every time, it did. We started sharing more than sugar packets. Little things, at first. His favorite author, my insomnia, the way he walked the city when he couldn't sleep. Small confessions that shouldn't have mattered, but they did. Each word another stitch binding me to him, and every time I went home to my husband, the weight grew heavier. My smile grew thinner, my excuses sharper. The day it rained, the office emptied quickly. Umbrellas popped open like black flowers on the street below. I stayed late, finishing a report, and when I finally stood to stretch, I heard it, the familiar hum of the machine. He was there, of course he was, leaning against the counter, cup in hand. the light catching the drops of rain that clung to his shoulders. "You again," he said, smiling. "Maybe I just like coffee," I replied, my voice too soft. "Or maybe," he said, lowering his voice, "you like the company." My breath caught, my pulse skipped. The words hung in the air like smoke, curling around us, impossible to ignore. "Careful," I whispered. "Someone might hear you." He shook his head, eyes steady. No one's listening, and he was right. The office was silent, empty. Just him, just me, and the rain outside, tapping against the glass like a secret rhythm. I should have walked away. I should have ended it then, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed. And when he looked at me again, I knew this wasn't just flirtation anymore. This was a fire, and I was standing far too close. That night, I lay awake beside my husband, listening to the rain, wishing it was Miles's voice I heard instead. After that, everything changed. Coffee breaks became charged moments, each one a battle between reason and desire. I started to dread them and crave them all at once. One morning, the machine sputtered, out of order. I almost sighed with relief until he appeared beside me anyway, holding 2 cups from the cafe downstairs. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering one. I took it, our fingers brushing just slightly. Electricity shot up my arm, straight into my chest. "Thanks," I murmured, but gratitude wasn't what I felt. What I felt was fear. Fear of how badly I wanted him to keep showing up. Fear of how much of myself I'd already given away without a single kiss, without a single touch beyond a brush of hands. By then, my lies at home had become second nature. I blamed fatigue, blamed deadlines, blamed headaches for why I seemed distant. My husband believed me because why wouldn't he? I was Julia, loyal, dependable, safe. But I wasn't safe anymore. The moment that sealed it came late one morning. The corridor was crowded, people laughing, juggling files, phones ringing in the distance. I reached for my cup just as the hallway narrowed, and his shoulder brushed mine. "Sorry," he murmured, but instead of moving away, I found my hand resting on his forearm for balance I didn't need. My fingers lingered, betraying me completely. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. "I am," I lied. The hallway moved around us, a current we refused to join. Finally, he stepped back, giving me space, but not before his eyes told me what words couldn't. We both knew it, and we both denied it. At night, Lisa's voice echoed in my head. "You know this won't end here." She was right. And deep down, I didn't want it to end. I wanted more. The next morning, I told myself it had to stop. I would take my coffee at my desk, avoid the machine, avoid him. But habits are stronger than vows, and hearts don't obey rules. By mid-morning, I found myself there again, fingers drumming against the counter as the machine hissed and filled my cup. I prayed it would be empty, that I'd be alone, that temptation would pass me by. But then I heard his footsteps. Slow, steady. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. He stood beside me, too close, his presence burning at the edges of my self-control. "Julia," he said softly, so no one else could hear. I looked up, his eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time, there was no pretense, no casual smile, no harmless chatter. 4 words, just 4. "Julia, I want you." The room spun. My heart slammed against my ribs, torn between flight and surrender. And in that second, with the smell of coffee thick in the air and the office just steps away, I realized there would be no turning back.